In that initial sales call, hopefully you've done a good job of uncovering their biggest pain points. And if those things are an 8 out of 10 in terms of so much pain that they need to solve it today, that is why you cannot stop asking, because you can solve that problem for them. So you're essentially healing this massive pain point that's keeping your prospective client up at night. Why on earth would you not want to get in front of them and fix that for them?
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. Today, I'm very, very honored to have a really cool name and even a cooler person, Holly Jean Jackson. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. And equally cool, this is the Cool Kids Club. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right?
Nice. I love it. So, Holly, you've got a really cool journey. I mean, if I remember correctly from our last conversation, you started your career in tech. I believe you were a program manager, right? For some great companies, and then somehow you pivoted and became kind of a wellness and business coach, right? And so how did that happen? Tell us a little bit about your journey up to this point.
Sure. It's been quite a windy path, which I'm sure your listeners can relate to. So I started, actually, before I got into tech, I started a nonprofit, and I had a specialty in education policy. And then a mentor of mine hired me and said, gosh, Holly, I think you'd be really good in technology. You're really good at communicating between the business owners and what they need. And I think you could learn the technology stack really quickly. And we need that skill set for this particular role. And they created that role around me. So for those of you listening and you're looking for a job, guess what? The best jobs are the ones that they create for you through your network of the people that you know. And it does happen all the time. Most of the jobs I have had done that. Now, then I also worked at some big name companies like Visa and Treasury Wine Estates, but I kept getting laid off. I had 4 layoffs over, I think, 5 or 6 years. And I just got really fed up and frustrated. I was a top performer. I got like the top commission bonus percentages. I was creating programs for 80,000 employees and countless consumers globally, and doing these incredible things as an intrapreneur, right, for a company with the 401k and all the good things. And I just got tired. I said, great, this is a message from the universe, from God, to do my own thing and support small business owners. Because for me, I just found that the corporate climate felt a little toxic for my personality. And I was, in addition to those layoffs, I was getting a lot of health challenges. And I felt like that pattern was trying to send me a clear message of go a different way.
Wow. And that's how you got into your own business, consulting small businesses.
Yeah. So, and you're correct. I initially started out as a holistic business coach. And then about 2 years ago, in the middle of COVID, I had this epiphany before going on a trip to Mexico City to start writing book number 2. And I was like, why are my sales drying up? I couldn't figure it out. And I went to a couple health conferences right before that trip, and I realized, gosh, they were hit so hard by COVID, they didn't have funds to invest. So then I pivoted and broadened my niche and started supporting small business owners, founders, authors, and speakers so that they can go big. And I really was focused on the fact that I was doing more than coaching. I was actually consulting. I was developing standard operating procedures, templates, playbooks, etc. for my clients, even marketing things. And so I started marketing myself as a revenue and performance consultant, and that's been selling like hotcakes ever since.
Nice. That sounds a lot less, how do I say this, cliche, right? It sounds like something we could all, talk about and actually use. So I'm really excited about getting there as well. But what are some of the lessons, both things you learned that the companies you worked for did well, and lessons you learned that they were leaving sort of money on the table during your years as a program manager or any role you played in tech, like and that you now use in your coaching?
Yeah, actually, I would say that the work experience that I got from those corporate experiences and higher education experiences and even nonprofit gave me a world-class education, a world-class MBA, or even more, a practical MBA. And there were a lot of things that they did do well. There were a lot of things in terms of business things that they were doing and business policies, standard operating procedures, even some of the communications were well done. And that was incredibly helpful. What I've noticed were some of the gaps where a lot of executives weren't properly trained on leadership. And so they were leaving money on the table in terms of investing and really supporting their teams and growing their teams. So there was a huge gap with the employee culture and making sure leaders were properly supported. Because I can tell you from firsthand experience, they threw me in, I think I was 27, into a director level role while learning from the fire hose, all the things in the tech stack, and managing a team that had been at the university for longer than I was alive.
Wow.
So just imagine being thrown into that position, not having the social credibility for that, the age difference as well, and being expected to then lay off half of your staff. Like that was a steep learning curve. And so going from an individual contributor to a leader, there's a huge gap in corporate companies and smaller companies where
Right.
they don't invest in leadership. And so cultures dry up and you have these bad lemons and people get frustrated. So that's a huge gap. There's so many more, but that's just, we're just getting started.
And funny, you talked about leadership and you talked about layoffs. So I'm going to speak to that because I am not a believer in layoffs. In fact, I've never had a layoff in all these
Wow.
years. I feel like layoffs are a shortcut to bad management and bad leadership. And what I mean by that is a lot of times rather than coaching people up or out properly, okay, this is not all rainbows and sunshine. I do believe in terminating employees that aren't happy or aren't performing. That's different. But I don't believe in layoffs because, again, it's usually just a kind of give me your bottom 20% or whatever they decide to do versus actually working with their staff to improve their skills, to get their performance up and find out what's stopping them from performing at a high level and coaching them through that. They just do blanket layoffs. Now, certain layoffs are necessary, right? One-off positions that need to be eliminated that you just don't need, or you acquire a company and don't want to support that team. That's fine. But when you're eliminating people for performance reason, but it's all under the blanket of layoff, I think it's a cop-out, to be honest with you. Or companies have gotten so big and so political that the directors or VPs are not empowered enough to actually make those decisions. So they wait around for the company to have layoffs. So why do you think this is? If you agree with me, why do you think this is?
I do agree with you. So I think if we actually had intentional programs where we supported leaders, and I'm talking middle management, anybody who has a direct report that's reporting into them, if we gave them the tools for the soft skills necessary, as well as the practical, like looking at dashboards, being able to evaluate key performance indicators of the people, reporting into you, and also the bottom line things necessary from a monetary perspective. If we actually trained managers and leaders on these things and how to motivate their staff, how to be connected to your staff, how to create a safe container so that your staff can fail fast, learn from it, and then still create and be innovative, all these things. If we did this effectively and they were set up for success, you wouldn't have so much fat, so to speak, within corporate companies. The problem we run into is not just with staff, but also when we have vendors that we outsource jobs to. I will tell you from both government supported jobs at universities as well as private companies, and I won't say specific names, there is so much mismanagement. They're not managing these things closely enough, and it's a misuse of taxpayer dollars and shareholder dollars. So when we have to trim the fat, it's because we're not investing in the people that we are trusting and expecting to manage these teams and individuals, and that's the failure right there. And this is even worse with small business owners because oftentimes many of them have not even had a corporate experience, so they don't even have the foundational blocks for managing anyone. And they certainly need these who's. So we can talk about this all day.
and exactly. And what ends up happening is they were groomed with bad leadership. So it just continues, right? They didn't get the proper leadership they needed. and it just keeps going. And this is the problem. They are not good leaders because they weren't taught to be good leaders, nor were they led by good leaders. And so it's almost like bad parenting. Usually those kids end up being bad parents themselves. That's what I feel like some of these things create. If you're not taught to be a good manager, some of leadership is innate, some of it is not innate, it's trained, and they are not trained well. Right?
Yeah.
They're just taught what their manager did, and it was either effective or not.
Yeah.
So that's
But then
big.
you also have those coasters, right? Those people, those employees, even those managers, those leaders that are just coasting for their paycheck.
Yep.
Oh, I can't stand this, especially when you work for an organization, in the state government or federal, where they have all these regulations and hoops you have to jump through. It's so hard. It's like impossible to manage them out.
Yes.
And you're just sitting there thinking, I'm spending all my tax-paying dollars on that? What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So there's also something to be said for the fact that it is great when you have the opportunity to properly manage out or get rid of a position when it actually is truly necessary, and that is a bad apple.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about this leaving money on the table, because I think this is a topic you spoke on in your TED Talk. Is that correct?
The TED Talk was actually slightly different. It was about navigating this new era of uncertainty and the fear method, but we can talk about that as well. But
Sure.
let's talk about money first, and we'll come back
Yes.
to fear,
Yes.
because they go hand in hand, really.
They do.
So when it comes to money, everybody loves to talk to me about revenue and performance, because who doesn't want you to see more money in your business? It's like, show me the money that Jerry Maguire has in that episode on the movie. So where do business owners leave the most money on the table? There are 5 areas where we have massive opportunities for efficiencies, plugging profit leaks, as well as just so many diversified strategies so that we can have consistent, less scary, less roller coastery profits in our business. Those 5 areas are: number 1, lead generation. One of the biggest mistakes in that category that business owners make is they lean on one thing. They get Facebook ads working and they just rely on that. They have LinkedIn lead generation working and they rely only on that. You have to be really careful when these are not your own platforms. You want to diversify that, because otherwise all it takes is the algorithm changing overnight and you're screwed. So you don't want to do that. You have to be very intentional. And of course, referrals are the best source of income. So having a strategy around that is essential. The second place is sales. And this is one I could talk about for days and weeks and months and years. I cannot tell you how many business owners leave so much money on the table with sales. And it's because, especially small business owners, the owner is doing all of the sales and they don't have a team and they have no system. And so then they'll come to me and say, Holly, this person's was a hell yes. And then all of a sudden they're ghosting me and they've disappeared. I'm like, well, do you have a process? Have you followed up? How many times have you checked in? What formulas? Like, have you actually checked in on phone? Have you sent an audio note? Have you reached out on LinkedIn? Have you sent a digital card? Have you sent a physical card to their mailing address? And they're like, oh, I've only texted them or emailed them 3 times. Guys, it takes asking 8 to 12 times for 80% of sales to happen. And during that, you need to constantly remind them of the massive impact you're going to have on their business. Today alone, I have my standard operating procedure for sales. I reached out to this woman based on our procedure, and it was a task that popped up on the calendar. And I said, hey, Amelia, I'm really excited to work with you. And I was very specific on why. And she's like, I don't even know who you are. She forgot. And this was like a month ago, you guys. So I have to remind you, we are not the center of our potential customers' universe. There are so many things happening every single day. You have to stand out from the crowd and have a deliberate sales process. Now, Amelia is kind of an outlier because our sales process is so dialed in that people don't forget us. They're just usually like, hey, you've asked me 12 times. I'm just not ready yet. Can you check in June? Or, I actually found somebody else. Cool. Your job in sales is to get them to a yes or a no. That's it. It's not personal. But those are two of the categories. We could talk about the other three, but I don't want it to just be about Holly here.
No, I want to keep going. But Holly, what you said is great. It's systems are important because I remember many years ago, I had a coach that came in and he said, "Tell me about your referral system." And I was like, "Oh, it's great. We get most of our business through referrals. All very true." He goes, "No. Talk to me about your referral system." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I mean, people know who I am. They know what we're about. They want to refer us, they'll refer us. And he was like, "Oh, so you don't have a system or a program?" I'm like, no, I mean, we give them bonuses as a thank you. He's like, "That's not a system or process or anything." So just as an experiment, I did it one time and it worked beautifully. All I did is I called someone. I was like, "Hey, question for you. I notice you work at this company and they're looking to hire a director of engineering. We have some great director of engineers. Can you introduce me to this company?" He said, "Sure. I didn't think you'd want to work with them." I said, "Why wouldn't you think I wanted to work with them?" He said, "Well, you guys have these crazy tier one companies and they're really not, right? They're like a really solid, okay company." I said, "Let me ask you a question. Are all A people A talents?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Look, we represent A people, like phenomenal people that might not get those jobs at those tier one FANG companies we represent, let's say, or FANG-like companies, but they would love to work at these organizations, and these organizations would be great employers for them." And he's like, "I never thought about that." He does an intro, boom, we've got a client. I mean, literally the first time I did it, I was like, "Oh, this is what you mean by a system." Because, I had this attitude almost like, if you're going to refer me business, you're going to refer me business. If you're not, you're not. But I think it's deeper than that. I think you need a system. A lot of us are
Yes.
afraid to bother people or ask for things, but it's odd. Every time I ask for things, I get 10 times more than I ask because people can't wait to help me because I've hopefully given so much to them. They love giving back, but we don't think of it. Same thing with sales. I mean, I got off the phone with you and then I already had an email with a welcome letter and this and that. I mean, it's really systematic and really, really good. So I like that. Can we keep going? Because there was other stuff that you're all about.
Yeah, well, I want to layer on to what you just shared, and then we'll go into the other three categories. But what he just shared about referrals, having a system for your referral partners. We have a partner onboarding process that we've been running for the last 6 to 12 months. I got to tell you, just like we expect our prospective client to remember who we are and we're top of mind, we're that burning thing that's on the tip of their tongue, that's ridiculous. The same thing goes with your business partners. If you're not having really VIP experiences with them, why would you be top of mind to refer business to? But when you have an onboarding process that makes it easy and has templated introductions, explains the pain points, says, if you meet a business owner that does X, Y, and Z, this is a great introduction for Holly Jean Jackson, and here's how you do that intro. If you make it easy for them and you offer value by having partner events, by having monthly check-ins, by sending them introductions that are high value for them, then you're going to have so much income coming in. Everybody wins in that scenario, but you have to have touch points throughout it, just like your sales process.
Holly,
Everything is sales.
Of course, I agree. How do you combat the feelings that you don't want to bother people? I don't want to bother people. I've already asked them once. If we're lucky, we've asked once, right? And I don't want to keep asking them. I've already asked. How do you combat that fear of being annoying or fear of the shyness to ask for things? And most of us aren't about that, right? We're shy. We're a little shy about stuff.
Oh man, there's so many ways to answer this. We could even talk about the fear method. So the best way I could say to get past that, especially when it comes to sales, in that initial sales call, hopefully you've done a good job of uncovering their biggest pain points, the things that are keeping your prospective client up at night. And if those things are an 8 out of 10 in terms of so much pain that they need to solve it today, that is why you cannot stop asking. Because ultimately, if you can fix a pain point that's an 8 out of 10, it's causing them, issues financially at home. They're emotionally having issues with their spouse, perhaps. They feel like their sales mojo is off. And so it's affecting their confidence at home as a parent. This affects and bleeds into every part of their life. And if you can fix that, how dare you not follow up and ask them, because you can solve that problem for them. So you're essentially healing this massive pain point that's keeping your prospective client up at night. Why on earth would you not want to get in front of them and fix that for them? I mean, that's like
Nice.
giving candy to a kid. Of course they want that.
And I think the word sales comes from a Greek word to give. So people forget that, right? They think sales is to take. It's not to take, because you can't take from people what they're not willing to give. It's about giving.
It really is. A lot of the clients that I worked with, obviously the first couple of years in business in the holistic space, healers in particular, and people that are physically healing bodies or emotionally healing bodies have a lot of trouble charging money for their services. But I like to help them pivot the fact that sales is really inviting your client into a deeper relationship with you. And the investment is so that they're equally dedicated in that partnership to solving that problem. Because honestly, guys, if you are listening to this, when you put in a big investment, don't you show up in a totally different way that changes your identity, your belief
Absolutely.
system? You got like a whole different swagger. Like, I just invested 20 grand in this program. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Versus, I invested $20 in this thing. Like, well, I might do it. No, when you have some skin in the game, you're going to be more successful.
Well, like when you sign up for a free networking event or class or whatever, you're like, sure, I'll sign up. You may or may not go because it's free. Who cares?
Yeah.
If I don't go, I don't go. If I go, now you start spending $200-$300 or $1,000 or $2,000. You better bet you're gonna commit and you're gonna prepare. You're gonna show up and all that stuff. That's interesting. You put it that way. What are the other concepts? So we've got lead generation. It's incredibly important. Top of the funnel. You got sales, probably considered the middle. How about the others?
Yeah. So the next piece is looking at your customer experience. You guys, we are in the era of where the competition lies is in the experience that you create.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to differentiate yourself, everybody, Joe Blow out there, everybody's consulting or coaching or doing, there's so many services. It's rare to come into the market as the only person doing that thing that you're offering. So how you differentiate yourself is your customer experience. And this starts from the very beginning. It starts from, like I said earlier, the sales process, having those high touch delight moments with your prospects. But that doesn't stop. The huge mistake that business owners make is they forget once you get the customer, you still have to delight the customer because you want to keep the customer, because you know what? It took a lot of work, time, and money to get the customer. Yeah. And these are your biggest fans and advocates, and they're a core essential part of your business ATM, you guys. So as soon as you onboard them, we all know when you buy something, you buy a big house, you make a big investment, there's always that moment of, oof, did I make a mistake? And you start freaking out. And this is just normal brain mechanics. Our minds are set up this way. So you want to combat that in your customer experience. You want to send them a gift, a digital gift that they immediately have, so that we stop. We're like, nope, we don't want any buyer's remorse. We've got you. We understand exactly what you need right now before that first call that we have, before the product reaches your door. Every single time that you think that your customer might be struggling, or you hear of a new thing from the collective community you're serving that they need, be 10 steps ahead of that or 2 steps ahead of that and offer it and delight them. And also for me, when I onboard new clients, I send them a surprise gift. And it truly is a gift. It's not about Holly Jean Jackson. It's about them. It has their logo on it. And it says, you've got this. And it's saying, I'm in your corner, even though I'm physically not there with you. I believe in you, and we're going to get this done. Those are just a couple examples of creating that VIP customer experience. And when you do this, your referrals are going to go out the window, and you're going to have fans and customers for life.
Customer service is incredibly important, and it's an area that I see, unfortunately, more and more people in tech, especially tech startups, trying to AI that, right? And so you've got this huge distance. You've got, hey, send me a ticket, or you're not. It's all automated. It's AI, and next thing you know, it's going to be bots communicating with customers. And I think it's a terrible idea. You should be focused on customer experience through and through. It should be our number one thing you deal with, because then you do get delighted, referral hubs and raving fans, and more importantly, you retain that client. And from what I've read, I believe it's 5 times cheaper to keep your customer to get a new one. Just think about that.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think about it. Your customers, when they do this work with you, they naturally start referring business to you. I mean, my clients, when I'm visiting different cities and states, they're like, let's grab a meal, Holly. Because my customers, my clients know that I think of them like partners, like friends. I care about them. I care about them personally and professionally. And I can't say that a lot of businesses are putting off that kind of vibe or that kind of experience with their customers. And this is scalable. You can hire for this. That's why, and you have a lot of experience with hiring, but it's hiring based on vision alignment and values alignment. Those are things you can't teach. If people don't have them,
Yeah.
they're not gonna gel with your organization.
You nailed it. I always talk about alignment every way. Great. Let's keep going. What else? What's next? You said 5. You promised me 5. I want 5.
We got two more. So employee experience. Whether you're a solopreneur hiring that first virtual assistant, or you've been in business a while and all of a sudden you're going through a growth spurt, how you hire and the experience you create for your employees has a direct impact on your customer experience, you guys. You get that? So if you're not hiring intentionally so that you can duplicate and replicate what you've created from the beginning, initially as a solopreneur for a lot of the people I work with, you want to create, I like to say minions, but not really. Like, they have their unique personality. But again, at the core, you want these employees that you hire to have exactly the same value set and the same vision, or at least some alignment and cross containment on that Venn diagram with their personality. And then, of course, you want to create an employee experience where everybody understands very clearly the vision and mission of your organization, and they're excited about that.
Huge.
And how do you do that? Well, there are things like impact filters that you can create that are short 1 to 2 pagers that specifically say what success looks like. It has metrics. It says how this is directly aligned to the long-term vision of perhaps starting a nonprofit that's actually supporting children in Africa, whatever that looks like for that organization. If you're an employee and your vision and mission and your values are aligned, and you know that your organization is supporting educating children in Africa, and that's exciting to you, don't you show up an entirely different way
Absolutely.
than just, oh, gosh, I'm going to create this SOP. I'm going to do this administrative work. This is super boring. You're going to show up with like passion and excitement, empowerment in your work. So leaders out there, guys, you have to constantly remind your team of this vision, mission, and in tangible ways that tell stories about the kids in Africa you're affecting. Hey guys, this month we sold this much in revenue. That means we were able to help 5 schools in this particular city in Africa. Here's a specific testimonial we got from a teacher in one of those schools. I'm getting goosebumps describing this. This isn't even real. That's exciting. People want to have legacy. They want to be part of legacies. And not all of us are built to have these big things, but we are built to follow. Yeah. And support that. And so find your followers that are aligned and create that culture. And oh my gosh, nothing will stop you if you do that correctly.
Well, on 2 fronts, I want to speak to that. Absolutely. Like, your vision cannot be about money, right? Because as much as people, your employees will pretend they care, and some of them will care because they're smart and they see the opportunities. But one, what's in it for them, meaning what opportunities does this create for them, whether it's more income, equity, if it's promotions, it's more money, whatever it is, that's they want to hear, and or what impact can they make on the world. That's another big one. So they have to know that, right? They have to be, your goals have to be aligned with their long-term goals. You talked about that earlier. And you have to be doing something fruitful for them and the world, for them to really hang their hat on your vision, basically. Right?
Absolutely. And again, just like we have repeated throughout this episode, you're selling your vision and mission to your employees, which means you need to repeat it so that it becomes part of their DNA. And you're telling stories constantly so they remain excited and motivated and they see how what they're doing is adding to that vision. If you don't repeat this, it gets lost in the shuffle because life is so fast. And we can't assume that, this is the only focal point of their life. They have children, they have, side hustles perhaps. So keeping them engaged and telling those stories and keeping them updated on how grateful you are for how they're helping you guys achieve this vision and mission.
I like it. What's number 5?
Well, it's kind of a nice segue. We went from that and we were kind of talking about vision and how it's really tied to legacy. So number 5 is legacy. So a lot of folks that I work with the founders and the CEOs of companies, occasionally business development arms of a company, but the first call we have when we onboard them is around their life and business compass. And what that means is we're looking at their top priorities in life as a personal, like real live human, and then their top 3 quarterly business goals that they want to achieve. And they need to be specific, tangible, actionable, and realistic. But then we're also looking across that. What is your long-term thing? What is that thing that gets you out of bed even when shit hits the fan, or when you're in incredible pain, or, something just life threw you a curveball out of nowhere? What gets you out of bed and excited and keeps you motivated and inspired and going after that thing and showing up as the leader that your team needs? For a lot of the folks I work with, the legacy they want to be remembered for is building a nonprofit or giving to a charity or a foundation, or simply being an amazing parent, or creating a company that they can actually exit and gift to their children, or exit and send the funds to support their children and grandchildren. These are beautiful legacies, you guys. But oftentimes, these business owners are living and building their business in ways that are completely out of alignment with the legacy that they want to be remembered for. What happens when you're trying to live your life out of alignment? Okay. Friction, resistance. It's like trying to swim upstream a river with white rapids that are just smacking you in the face. So if you're feeling that in this season of life, oftentimes that means you're on the wrong path. So really dig deep. What is the legacy you want to be remembered for? When you're buried and people are at your funeral, what do you want Avitus to be remembered for? What is that? And then ask yourself, are you building an organization and a future and a lifestyle that's on that same path? And if not, how can you pivot to get on that same path? Because it's a lot easier and so much more fun and so much more inspiring when you're on the right path.
Of these 5, where do you see most businesses failing?
Ooh, well, it depends on the type of business and how far they're into their business. A lot of people that are 5 years into, even 15 to 20 years into business, a lot of it's systems and processes, and that typically falls into the first 2 buckets of lead generation and sales. Now, if they're further along and they're in a huge growth spurt where they've hired a lot of people, that desperately impacts their customer experience and employee experience. The legacy piece, I would say, most people don't have fully dialed in. No. But that's more of kind of an icing on top of the cake versus foundationally necessary. That's just a nice to have that really sells and solidifies the message of your organization. Because when you have a heart-centered leader that is just so aligned with this legacy and they share stories effectively of the children in Africa, for example, what kind of customer doesn't want to get on board with that when it's supporting that kind of growth?
Weird question, Holly. There's a lot of fluff out there when it comes to this stuff. And I personally know a lot of people that put out this image of, what you just described, but really that's not who they are. How do people that want to, align themselves with the right leaders who actually care about these things, how do they vet out the fluff and the inauthentic people that are putting this out there just to sell, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're trying as an employee trying to find organizations that actually are aligned truly to this. You can actually ask for specific reports on it, especially if they're, publicly owned company. You can say, gosh, I want to see the books on that. Like, I really want to see that. You can also tell pretty quickly if they're a leader that's very generous with their time and a leader that truly cares, or maybe they're not as generous because they're truly busy, but when they are with you, they are with you. When you have leaders like that, you can just feel it's kind of this authentic gut sense. You just know that they truly mean what they're saying. And I think we all have like the BS radar these days, and it's pretty sensitive lately. I think people are very attuned to what's authentic and what's not. It's pretty easy to see the smoke and mirrors more than we used to in the past. But I think when you have a real conversation with someone and you say, why is this so important to you? If their why isn't powerful, or it seems rehearsed, or it seems not passionate, or they don't get emotional about it, that's not real. I mean, I'm making up a story about children in Africa. It's not a real story from clients because I can't share what we're actually doing with a lot of the clients I work with. And I'm getting goosebumps about it because I love this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you can tell that when people are excited and they're actually aligned versus when they're not. They're going to come across very unhealthy, very unenergized, very unmotivated, very selfish, just constantly asking and pushing versus giving.
Yeah, no, it's a powerful thing. We've done a few programs and it feels incredible. And guys, you would be surprised on how little it takes. You don't have to spend hundreds of thousands to make an impact. A lot of these countries that the poorer countries, you can make an impact with a few $1,000s. I mean, and this is money you might spend on stupid things. You might get rid of one subscription and dedicate that money to a great program. In fact, that's a good idea. Rather than just, hey guys, let's go out there and try to eliminate 1% of our costs to save money. It's like, let's eliminate 1% of costs so we can donate to a great cause, because clearly we don't need these tools or technologies or whatever the hell that we signed up for that we don't even log into. So that's one easy way to do it. And Holly, it seems like people are typically in one of four areas in their lives. They're either in survival, right? And in survival, you're not thinking about any of this stuff. You're just heads down, almost just trying to swim upstream, and you're just trying to make ends meet to feed your kids. Then there's status. You've done a little bit of good and you want to show the world that you've succeeded. We all have egos and we want to know that we're winning in life. And then it becomes impact, right? Like, now I want to make an impact. I don't necessarily need you to see that I'm successful or not. I just want to do good things, publicly or privately. And then fourth is legacy, right? That's when you're truly wanted to make a long lasting kind of change in the world, and you want your name on it because you want somebody to be proud that it's their grandfather or their father or their mother or sister that did this. So you're saying from all of these things, what would you say people fail at the most?
Lead generation and sales. And here's the thing, they don't know the difference. So they'll come to me and say, gosh, Holly, I don't have enough appointments on my calendar. Well, sure, that's a lead generation thing. Or they'll say, my sales are slipping. And I'll say, what's your sales conversion rate? What does that mean? I'm like, are you kidding me? So it's just really funny. A lot of them will have a lot of calls, but their conversion sucks. So you don't have a lead generation problem. That's the case. You have a sales problem. You have a systems problem.
Let's focus on that. Let's improve that. Okay, got it. Versus, we slam dunk it every time we have a meeting, but we just don't have enough meetings for some reason. Then you'll say, let's look at your lead generation, right?
Yeah. And guys, by the way, I'm picking up my phone on an interview. This is your best gift. Get on the darn phone. If you're not making sales, you don't have lead generation.
Thank you.
Call people. Stop hiding behind you don't have a business unless you're bringing in revenue. I know that's a hard message to hear, but stop hiding behind your video development, your content development, your logos. Get out there and sell something.
Yeah, no, for sure. Most startups fail for that reason. There's so many startups that I've seen that have pitched, that I've invested in, have not invested in, and their biggest issue is sales. They've got a great product and all they do is work on fixing bugs and improving the product and adding a new feature and doing this, and they go and they win contests and hey, what's your ARR? It's like, oh, we're still at like 4,000 a month. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You just raised all this money. Let's go, and it's because they're usually sales averse people. These are people that, I don't like being sold to, so I don't want to sell. You don't have a business, dude. You better get someone great very quickly who sells for you, or you better be selling quick or just fold, just move on, right? Sales is necessary. It's absolutely necessary. And I like what you said about picking up the phone. It's such an underutilized tool now that when you do pick up, and if someone's actually professional and good at what they do, you can get so much more done there than an email, which nowadays, there's so much spam coming in, especially because of AI, that, people aren't even checking emails,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, if your sales are struggling and you're thinking somebody's ghosting you, that was a hell yes initially, pick up the darn phone, send an audio note on text, send an audio note on WhatsApp, call them, send them a note on LinkedIn, send them a digital card, keep reaching them. Life is busy and things probably just got chaotic for them. It has nothing to do with you. But I can't tell you how many clients or prospective clients I've converted into clients from an audio note on my phone or calling them. It's simple. Stand out from the crowd. Be different than everybody else. And again, it's not just about selling. It's like, hey, Avidus, we had a great call a month ago. It's been a while. You seem like you were a hell yes. I haven't heard from you for a while. I'm actually worried about you because it seems very out of character. I wanted to check in and see how you and your family are doing. Please contact me. I'm genuinely concerned. You just want to get them engaging again. And then you say, gosh, are you still wanting to, get this party started working together? And you hit the key points based on your notes in your CRM of how you're going to help them specifically. And the more personalized that is, and the more you actually care and you genuinely mean it, they're going to want to work with you because you're being high touch and you care.
Let's talk about health for a second, right? Because that you were in that world for a little bit of time. There's so much going on in the world, and it's even for the most successful people, it's very, very, very frustrating times, right? You're trying to, and a lot of us are what they call sandwich generations. We got parents that we have to take care of. We got kids we got to take care of. And then we're in charge of some group, team, or organization. And life just keeps coming at you. And I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I have multiple businesses, and I'm everywhere, and sometimes it's just draining. It's just draining. What can you teach us about how to manage some of those stresses and keep going? Because we're doing good things. We're making an impact, but sometimes we're killing ourselves doing it.
Well, a couple things. The thing that's intuitively coming to me when you ask that is actually the fear method. And I designed the fear method from a chapter in my book on chronic pain, which is kind of relevant to what you're discussing. And then I made it more generalized to help with any challenge or health challenge or like physical challenge or in-person challenge or business challenge. F stands for face it. So the first thing is if you're facing a fear, you're facing overwhelm, you have a concern, face it, stop denying it. When we sit there and try to deny it or drink alcohol or overexercise or do these things to avoid the stressor that's there, it just keeps chasing us. It's like a bear in the woods chasing us. It's not going to go away. So face it, because it's a lot less scary once you do, and you can do something about it. The E in the fear method stands for embrace curiosity. Instead of, why me and being sad or being angry, get curious about it. What can you learn from this situation? Who could help you with this situation? What is this for that could open up in your life because of this circumstance? So get really curious versus defensive or angry. And then the A stands for two things. It stands for advocate for what you want and need. So sit down. What do you need? What do you want? Express that to the people in your inner circle and your family so that you can get the support that you need. And then the second part of the A is to activate mindset. You guys, our brains are wired for negativity bias, meaning, back in the caveman days, this was effective. There's a tiger attacking us. We were always on edge to survive, but we live in a different time, but our brains are the same. So you want to activate more positive mindsets. Focus on gratitude. Make a list of all the great things in your life versus all the bad. And then the R stands for reach out. You guys, fears and overwhelm and all the things and the curveballs life that can throw us are a lot scarier when you try to do it alone. We're not meant to do this alone. You're not meant to build your business alone. You're not meant to have your family grow alone. We were built for community. So reach out for the support that you need. If you use all these 4 steps, it doesn't matter if you're supporting somebody who's in the hospital, you have someone who just died, you have a family member you're needing to financially support, your business is struggling, life's a roller coaster. These 4 steps allow you to do everything you can do with grace and the support that you need.
Very good. Thank you. That was very powerful. Holly, how do people reach out to you, find you, learn from you, potentially even hire your organization to come in and tackle these 5 very, very important steps?
Absolutely. So you can find all of our information on hollyjeanjackson.com. You can email us at holly@hollyjeanjackson.com. And you can find me on my most active social media account, Holly J. Jackson on LinkedIn. And of course, we also have a podcast called Inspiration Contagion that's on all the main players and at inspirationcontagion.com.
Nice. You've added so much value. What's the closing statement you have for us? One thing we could all walk away from and implement today? Anything.
Yeah, so I'm famous for my bear story. This is going to be real quick. So I faced a bear in the woods and I had to charge it head on and I survived. But the reason I share that is not because I think you're going to face a bear in the woods. We all have a bear in our life. What is the bear that you're facing today? What is that fear that you can't let go of that's keeping you up at night? Use the fear method and face it. Ask for the help that you need because it is not worth the stress. And as soon as you face it, it's going to take all of that gusto and anxiety out of it. And your life is worth that. You are worth that.
Amazing. Thank you, Holly. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll see you around. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate you.
And that brings us to the end of another great episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. I want to thank you for joining us and hope you took away some valuable insights to apply in your professional journey. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you don't miss out on the next great conversation. I promise it'll be good. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps others discover the podcast. Better leaders mean better working environments. Better working environments leads to happier people. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm Avita Santablian, and this has been the Tech Leaders Playbook. Keep leading, keep learning, keep giving, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay inspired, my friends.